All right, what's going on, everyone? So my name is Brandon Turner, and today I want to talk to you about 5 really powerful benefits of rental property investing. So I love rental property investing. It's one of my favorite things in the world to do. Let's get that out of the way. My phone keeps blowing up on text messages. So anyway, we're gonna talk about 5 powerful ways rental property investing can make you wealthy. You see, it's not just one thing. It's one of the things I love about rental properties, and one of the things I put in the book that I wrote called the book on rental property investing is these things called the 4 wealth generators. And then there's one more I want to add on today. So I'm going to be running through all those. So do me a favor, let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. Just type something in the little chat area and it should let me know. But I'm going to keep going because, I want to. So, all right, should I sit back like this? How's this look? Let me see. Okay. All right, so let's go through the 4 wealth generators and the one more addition that makes it all even better. All right, first of all, the first of the 4 wealth generators is cash flow, right? Cash flow is extra money. Now, some of this stuff might sound really fundamental and basic to you, or maybe some of this is like just completely mind-blowing. You never thought of it before, but either way, we'll go through it. So, first one is cash flow, right? Cash flow is the extra money coming in every month. Now, let me tell you where people end up screwing this up. They look at a property and they say, great, the mortgage is $1,000 a month and the rent is $1,200. Great, we're cash flowing $200 a month. It's not really that way, right? Those who have been involved in real estate for a while know there's a lot of expenses involved with owning rental properties that add up over time. For example, you got a roof, right? A roof. Every year you have this roof, you got to replace it. Every 20 years you got to replace a roof, right? Well, what's that work out to on an annual basis? If a new roof was $20,000 and you needed it every 20 years, that's $1,000 a year just for a roof. Now, hopefully your roof's not $20,000, but you get the point, right? So every single month, you should be setting aside, at least on your numbers, like when you're doing the numbers, at least you should be setting aside a little bit for that. So again, cash flow is the first one, in that it's the extra money coming in, and it's the actual number. Again, people mess this up all the time. So when I buy a property, I typically will shoot for $100 in cash flow per unit, right? So if it is a duplex, I want $200 a month in cash flow. Now, again, that's after everything has been paid out. Utilities have been paid, the mortgage has been paid, taxes, insurance, repairs and maintenance, capital expenditures, which is like the roof, saving up for it. You could also call it reserves. Property management. After all that's said and done, I want in my pocket that I can spend, I want to see $100 per month per unit. So that's the first way rental properties can make you wealthy, is by giving you cash flow. A person could generate enough cash flow to quit their job. Let's go back to that number I said a minute ago, right? Let's say you got $100 per month per unit, right? So if you had 10 units, that would be $1,000 a month. If you had 20 units, that's $2,000 a month. So you can collect units to get that more. Now, a lot of people, $100 is not enough, right? Maybe you want $200 or $300 in cash flow, right? It depends on your style, where you're buying, the price points. I'm just telling you what mine is that $100 mark. All right, so that's the first one, is cash flow, and you get enough rental properties, you can make some cash flow, and that's good. You can get financial freedom. The next one, of course, is what we call appreciation. Not like I appreciate you, but like appreciation, like, hey, over time, the property values tend to go up. Now, yes, they do go up and down, right? Remember 2007? But they tend to, or at least historically, always come back and always come back stronger. Just inflation in general, the way that our world works, it goes up and down, but generally goes up and to the right. And so if you buy a property for $100,000, hopefully it'll be worth more than that later on. Or you buy it for $1 million, hopefully it'll be worth more later on. The great part about rentals is that you can afford to hang on to it through the down parts and then sell on the up part. Example, I bought a house back in 2012. I paid, $65,000 for it. I put in about 20 grand worth of work, so it was worth about $85,000 I had into it. And then that was in 2012. I just sold it here in 2018. I sold it for $170,000. In fact, I gave it to the person at a screaming deal because they were my tenants. I probably could have gotten closer to 190, maybe even 200, had I listed on the open market. But then I would have had agent fees and I had to fix a few things, and I'm glad I did it, right? But that's appreciation. Now, in fact, that story actually kind of talks about two different types of appreciation. There's the obvious, like the natural ebb and flow of the real estate market based on the US economy, but it also showcases forced appreciation. So forced appreciation is where you take a property and by improving it, you make the value go up. Now, when you're buying single family houses, you can force appreciation by fixing up the single family house, right? Making it worth more because now it's worth what other fixed up houses are. You buy it for a junkie price and you get a top dollar for it, right? With multifamily, like larger multifamily, you can oftentimes add a lot more value by increasing what we call the net operating income. That's like the extra money every month in your pocket, not counting the mortgage. So it's like all the income minus the non-mortgage expenses. Now that gets kind of complicated, but let me try to sum up. It basically means the more profit you make on a multifamily, the more the property's worth. The more profit you make, the more the property's worth. Now, how do you make more profit? Well, you could raise the rent or you could drop some expenses. So I bought a fourplex recently, a 4-unit property. It's like 4 houses on one lot. So when I remodeled it, I made sure that we separated all the water meters. I mean, they already were, but I made sure to keep it that way, right? So that way the tenant would pay their own. Before, the landlord was paying all 4 water bills. So I made sure they were all separate and I shifted the responsibility over to the tenant. All of a sudden now my expenses dropped by like $300 a month from what the previous guy was paying, right? So with multifamily, you can oftentimes increase it. I'm actually working on a mobile home park deal right now where the same thing is true. And I bought another mobile home park that did the same thing. We shifted the water bill over. So there's a lot of ways to save money on expenses, right? You can get better property management. You can negotiate lower fees, shift over some responsibilities to the tenant, whatever. Or you can raise rent. So if you buy a property, the best case is you can do all of that, right? You buy a property that's underperforming, I mean the rent is too low, and you raise the rent, but you also maybe can find ways to cut expenses. Now your profit multiplies even greater, making the property worth way more money. So that's the second way you can build wealth through real estate. There's cash flow, then there's appreciation. The third way is the tax benefits. The tax benefits. Now, when you own a piece of rental property, you typically, like the money you make, you got to pay taxes on it, right? Uncle Sam wants his money. The cool part is there's a few things. One, there's something called depreciation. Now, what depreciation is, and let's not get too math nerdy here, but a depreciation is basically this idea that your property, let's say we're talking about like a single family house, right? The IRS says that you can deduct, which means you don't pay taxes on a certain portion, 1/27th of it, technically 1 out of 27.5 years. So if your property was worth, the value of the house was worth $275,000, you can take 1 to 27.5, whatever 1 divided by 27.5 is. Anyway, and basically deduct it. Here's what that means. It means, let's say that works out to, I don't know, let's say you have a rental that works out to $5,000 you can deduct. And you made $5,000 in cash flow that year. But instead, so because you're deducting that $5,000, you're not paying taxes on the 5, which means potentially you cannot pay taxes at all on the income you make on rentals. Now, if you do have to pay taxes, you're not paying taxes like a normal business owner. Most likely, and again, I'm not a CPA, so I'm not giving you like tax advice here, but like most likely you're going to end up paying just income tax, but not not self-employment tax, just normal income tax, not self-employment. So you save 15% there as well. So anyway, there's a lot of benefits to owning. That's just some of the tax benefits. But if you want more information on the tax stuff, go to BiggerPockets.com/store and make sure you pick up a copy of Amanda Hahn's book, Tax Strategies for the Savvy Real Estate Investor. It's really good. All right. So we covered cash flow, appreciation, the tax benefits, and the fourth way is the loan paydown. Now, what I mean by that is that if you get a mortgage on the property, over time that mortgage drops in the principal. Like you owe less and less money on it, right? So if I owe $200,000 on a property and I have it on a 30-year mortgage, then in 30 years, I'm gonna owe nothing on it. So I like to use an example to explain this. Let's just say that that you had a rental property that made no cash flow at all, nothing. You made no money on cash flow. and you bought a property that never went up in value ever. It never climbed in value, right? And then, so no cash flow, no appreciation. And let's just say you have a horrible CPA that didn't know anything about taxes and you got zero tax benefit by owning this property. No depreciation at all, right? But if after all that's said and done, you're breaking even, it's not going up in value, if you paid, let's say, $1 million for that property and paid it off over the next 20 years, let's say you were making no money, but at least in 20 years from now, that property is worth $1 million and you don't owe anything on it. So that's how the loan paydown can work. So it actually works together with appreciation. So hopefully over time, the value of the property is going up. At the same time, hopefully the loan amount is going down, which means your equity is the spread between what you owe and what it's worth. Your equity is climbing over time as your property value goes up and your loan goes down. Your equity is getting greater and greater and greater. So you take the cash flow that you're getting every month. Hopefully you're buying good deals that aren't breaking even. You get your cash flow that you're living on. You're getting financial freedom, or you're taking that money and dumping it into more deals, which is making you wealthier. You get appreciation whether you force it when you buy a fixer-upper or you just wait for the market to just naturally climb. You're now getting the tax benefits, which means you're paying less taxes, and it could even offset your income from like a W-2 job. Then you get the fact that over time, your loan's getting paid down. So you're building wealth in 4 ways. And the 5th way that I said today, we're talking about 5 ways. The 5th way is leverage. What that means is that you can do these deals without having all the money needed. You can borrow money in order to amplify your returns, right? So in other words, like if you were gonna go invest in the stock market, right? And you were to take $10,000 in the stock market and you were to go throw that into Tesla, right? You might be making, let's say 5% on your money. Great, 5% on your $10,000 is what's that, $500 a year? But that's all you can buy is $10,000 worth of stock, right? And you're making $500 in a year. But with real estate, let's say you did that same thing. You took that 10 grand and you used it as a down payment, let's say a 10% down on a $100,000 property. You just bought a $100,000 property for 10 grand. Now, if prices go up 5% per year, the same as a stock, your property went from $100,000 to $105,000. In other words, you gained $5,000 in equity in 1 year, but you only put 10 grand down, which means you just made a 50% return on your money, right? That's the power of leverage. Or let's look at like cash flow, right? Like you put less money down because of leverage. Now you're getting more, like potentially more cash flow for less money. In fact, I do a lot of deals with 0 money down. A lot of my deals do no money down, and yet I'm getting cash flow. I bought a triplex a few years ago. I put no money into it. Every year I make about 5 grand in cash flow. That's great leverage because now I can use my money to do other things, buy other projects, right? So leverage maximizes or amplifies the other 4. So we have the 4 wealth generators, and then leverage comes behind it like a rocket and just boosts it even better. And that's what I love about rental properties, is that it gives you this 5 powerful strategies. And yeah, other parts of real estate, flipping, wholesaling, yeah, you can get pieces of that. But rental properties really, and especially fixer-upper rental properties, which is using like the BRRRR strategy, it especially uses those things, all 5, really, really well, right? So imagine this idea. You buy a property that's a fixer-upper, right? Let me just give you a real example, a real life example of this. I bought that 4-plex I told you guys about earlier, right? It's a 4-unit property. I bought it the week my daughter was born, my little 2-year-old daughter. So I bought it 2 years ago now. I bought it and I fixed it up. Now I bought it for $45,000, dirt cheap because it was nasty and it had horrible tenants living inside of it. So I bought it for $45,000. Then I put in another $120,000 or so worth of work. Like I said, it was nasty. So now total I have $160,000, $165,000 in there. It's not worth $165. It's actually worth probably closer to $250, right? Between $2 and $250. So Now we've got this property worth, we'll just say conservatively, $200,000, right? So now I have instant equity, meaning wealth. Over time, it's also gonna go, because it's a really nice property now, it has very few repairs because I already fixed it up. So hopefully the property value will climb, but I'm also getting $1,000 every month in cash flow. Money in my pocket I can spend on whatever I want, right? So I'm getting cash flow every month. I'm getting the fact that I got forced appreciation, means property values are going up over time. Again, not always go up, but over time they tend to climb. I'm also getting the, so forced appreciation, natural appreciation, cash flow. On paper, it looks like I'm making no money on that property because of the way depreciation works. So I'm depreciating a good chunk of that property every year. So it takes what I should owe in taxes and reduces that to almost nothing. Furthermore, when I sell it someday, if I do, I can do what's called a 1031 exchange, and I can roll into another deal. Just another random cool benefit of tax benefit of owning real estate. Then I put that property on an 18-year mortgage. Technically, it's on a 30 that I set up automatic payments to make sure it's paid off in 18 years. Why? Because in 18 years, my little girl Rosie is gonna be going off to college. This is her college education. So even if I didn't make any cash flow, and even if it never climbed in value, and even if I didn't get the tax benefits, at least in 18 years, my tenants are gonna have that property paid off, right? My tenants pay me rent, I pay the mortgage, and then it's gonna be paid off to zero. Now, hopefully it'll be worth more like $300,000 to $400,000 in 18 years from now, maybe $500,000, right? So let's say in 20 years or 18 years, it's worth $500,000. That's awesome, right? So in the meantime, I got cash flow every single month that went up over time because rents also rise generally. So I got cash flow that increases over time, appreciation that increases over time, tax benefits that are affecting me every year and lowering what I owe on taxes. I'm getting the loan getting paid off, so that way it's worth $500,000 someday, hopefully, or 3 or 4. And Rosie can use that for whatever. And the entire deal, I have almost no money of my own put into it. It's all leveraged. I did the BRRRR strategy, B-R-R-R-R. B-R-R-R-R. That's the power of leverage. That's how rental properties take 5 different characteristics, package them all together, and can help you do some really incredible things. Pretty cool, right? So anyway, that's why I love rental properties. Yeah, what do you guys think? You like rentals? Is that cool? All right, so I gotta get out of here in a minute. I know there's probably people typing to me and chatting to me, and I can't see any of it because I'm just using my phone, and if I switch over, then it'll stop recording. So, I'm assuming there's probably a lot of questions. I'll try to jump into the comments of when I'm done. But hopefully that was educational. I will say this: if you guys are interested in learning more about this process, buying rentals, or finding good deals, I'm doing a live webinar every single week, including I'm doing a really special one tomorrow. Because we're halfway through the year right now. We're halfway through 2018. It's time to look at your goals, reevaluate, and then make some new goals and make a plan to get there. We're gonna be doing that live on a webinar tomorrow. I even have a special guest gonna be co-hosting that webinar with me. So you can sign up at biggerpockets.com/webinar, and I'll hopefully see you there. So without further ado, I'm gonna get out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure you share it on your Facebook page, or give that little thumbs up if you can. Let the world know that you like it. Thanks so much for being a part of BiggerPockets. I hope you guys have a fantastic evening. For BiggerPockets.com, my name is Brandon, signing off.